The morning she told me she loved me, she had already been lying to me for 11 months. I was standing in our kitchen, half awake, pouring coffee, and she walked up behind me and wrapped her arms around my back. She said it quietly, the way you say something you mean, or the way you say something you've practiced so many times it sounds like you mean it. I said it back, and that was the last good morning I ever had in that house. My name is Marcus. I'm 36 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am not dramatic. I do not exaggerate. I am the kind of person who reads the fine print, who shows up early, who remembers anniversaries without being reminded. I met Vanessa in the fall of 2016 at a work conference in Atlanta. We talked for 3 hours at the hotel bar the first night about nothing important. I flew home the next day and thought about her the entire flight. We were long distance for 8 months, Charlotte to Atlanta every other weekend. It was exhausting and expensive, and I would do every single bit of it again without hesitating. We got engaged in December of 2018, not some elaborate orchestrated moment, just dinner at home, a ring I'd been carrying for 3 weeks. She cried, I cried, we called our parents. We got married in April of 2019. The first year of marriage was good, not perfect, but genuinely good. By 2020, we'd bought a house, 3 bedrooms, a backyard the dog immediately destroyed. We were by every external measure doing well, and I want to be careful here because the real story didn't start with a dramatic moment. It started with a feeling. Sometime in late spring of 2021, something shifted. I couldn't name it then. She was on her phone more, angled slightly away, screen dimming faster than usual. I told myself she was stressed at work. I told myself the distance I was sensing was professional stress. I told myself a lot of things that summer. The first concrete moment came in July. We were supposed to have dinner with her colleague Diane. I asked which restaurant she'd booked. She said a name I didn't recognize, 40 minutes away in a neighborhood neither of us had any connection to. I said, have you been there before? She said no, too quickly. The way people say no when they mean to say yes but catch themselves. On the drive home, I kept thinking about that no. I had taken the afternoon off to pick up a piece of jewelry I'd had custom made for our anniversary. I pulled into the driveway and noticed a car I didn't recognize. A gray Audi, parked in front of my house. Chester didn't come to greet me at the door. He was in the backyard. Someone had put him out there. I stood in the kitchen and I heard her voice from upstairs speaking quietly, and then another voice. I heard a male voice upstairs. I walked back into the kitchen. I put the jewelry box on the counter. I sat down at the kitchen table and I waited. He came downstairs first. I had never seen him before. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know about how long this had been happening. He said, "Hey." I said nothing. Vanessa appeared in the kitchen doorway 30 seconds later. She looked at me, then at him, then back at me. And she said my name, just my name, like a question and an apology and a plea all compressed into 2 syllables. I looked at him and said quietly, "You need to leave my house." There was no screaming, no throwing things, no dramatic confrontation. What I felt was not rage. Rage requires heat. What I felt was the opposite, a cold, descending clarity, like a temperature drop. I asked one question, "How long, Vanessa?" She looked down at the table. She said, "Since September." The entire time she had been telling me she loved me, every anniversary dinner, every quiet Tuesday night on the couch. I stood up. I picked up the jewelry box. I looked at it for a moment. Then I put it in my jacket pocket. I said, I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. When I come back tomorrow, I'd like you to tell me the truth. Not the version you think I can handle, the actual truth. The hotel was a Marriott 15 minutes from the house. I sat on the bed with Chester's head in my lap and stared at the wall. That process, that specific mental excavation, is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. Every time she came home late, every weekend work trip, every mood you absorbed and accommodated and never questioned, you start to feel like a fool. That's the part nobody talks about, not the heartbreak, the humiliation. But by morning, the grief had organized itself into something quieter, something patient. I called a divorce attorney that Saturday morning, not in anger, strategically. She said, in North Carolina, adultery can affect alimony. Do you have documentation? I said, not yet. She said, get it. I went home that evening and behaved exactly as I had before. And I became, for the next 6 weeks, the most observant person in that house. The contact saved as Diana W., spelled differently, had a frequency inconsistent with a professional contact. 3 charges at a hotel in South End over 8 months, each on a day she told me she was working late. I documented everything, dates, amounts, patterns. I sent it all to Patricia. I said nothing to Vanessa. The hardest part was not the surveillance, it was the performance. Sitting across from her at dinner, behaving like a man who was still deciding, letting her believe we were in a holding pattern. I was not considering forgiveness. What I had decided was simpler. I was going to leave, but I was going to leave correctly. In October, I filed. Vanessa found out when she was served at work. She called me 6 times in 20 minutes. I was in a meeting and let every call go to voicemail. I didn't answer her calls. She said, you've been planning this. I said, I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. She hired an attorney, Greg Ballard, aggressive negotiation. His first move was questioning my documentation. Patricia read the letter, set it down on her desk and said, he's posturing. Everything you collected was legally obtained. Then Vanessa called my mother, told her I had become distant and cold, that she had felt emotionally abandoned. My mother called me concerned. I said, Mom, I love you. I'm not going to discuss the details of my divorce with you. What Vanessa had done was smart, I'll give her that. It was an attempt to complicate the story before it got told in court. 2 couples we had been friends with went quiet on me. I lost a Saturday dinner group that had been part of my life for 4 years. That hurt. I won't pretend it didn't, but here's what I had that Vanessa didn't. I had the truth. In mediation, Patricia laid the documentation on the table. Credit card records, hotel charges, conference dates, everything. There was a moment where Greg leaned over and whispered something to her, and her expression shifted. That was the moment she understood the version of events she had been telling people. I was not the version about to be told in court. The settlement was finalized in March of 2022. The house was sold. The accounts were closed. Ryan and Vanessa broke up 4 months after I filed. The relationship, stripped of its secret nature, did not survive contact with ordinary life. I moved into a new place in April 2022. I bought furniture I actually liked. I made it mine. The first few months alone were harder than I expected. You can stop loving a person and still miss the version of them you believed in. I went to therapy once a week for 14 months. I'm saying that plainly because I think men don't say it enough. We talked about trust, about being an emotionally reserved person who extends trust selectively and completely, and what happens when that trust is catastrophically violated. In the summer of 2023, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It said, This is Vanessa. I know you don't want to hear from me. I just needed to say something. Can I? She said, You were the most reliable person I've ever known, and I treated reliability like it was something I could take for granted. I read that message 3 times. Then I typed back, I appreciate you saying that. I hope you're doing well. And I put my phone down. The revenge was never the settlement. The revenge was getting my own life back, becoming again a person who trusted himself. Chester turned 6 this past spring. We went to the park and I threw a ball for an hour. I stood there in the grass watching him run and thought about August 14th, 2019. How far that day felt, how close it still was. I am building a life that is mine in a way that feels solid rather than performed. I am careful with my trust in a way that is wisdom rather than damage, most days. She came home to explain, but I wasn't there to hear it anymore.